Hi everyone, welcome back. Happy Pride Month, Herstoryans! This month we will dive deep into 3 or 4 stories of amazing women that have been instrumental in the LGBTQ plus community. This includes transgender women, and we are getting this out of the way right now. Transgender women are women. If you don't believe so, please click off of this video because my channel is a place where everyone is welcomed. And if you feel an itch to leave a degrading, unkind, idiotic comment, it will be deleted and you will be blocked. Unkindness is not accepted on this channel. With that, let us continue. Since this is a woman-based channel, obviously we will not be talking about gay men. That does not mean we don't love you all. We're giving you all the rainbow squeezes. The only men we will be talking about are the transgender women, those who are born as male that transitioned to female. Because again, transgender women are women. Lastly, I know this is long, but I have to get this out. Since I tell these stories from birth to death, I will be saying their first given name, or as we know it today, dead name. I will let you know when their new name comes, but for the majority of these videos with transgender females as the topic, I will use their true name because that's just being respectful. It's not hard. Okay, with all those major asterisks out of the way, let's start this month off by talking about the earliest documented known person to undergo gender-affirming surgery, Lili Elbe. Let's get started. Born Einar Mogens Wegener, Lili Elze Elvelins, better known as Lili Elbe, was born on December 28, 1882 in Vejle, Denmark. According to the St. Nikolai Church in Vejle, she had a brother and sister, names unknown. Her mother was Anne-Marie Thompson, and her father was Mogens Wilhelm Wegener, who was a spice merchant. We don't know a ton about her childhood. However, we do know when Lili was a teenager, she traveled to Copenhagen to study at the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts. While there, Lili, still known as Einar, met and fell in love with Gerda Gottlieb. They would go on to marry in 1904 when Gerda was 19 and Ina was 22. The two bonded over their love for painting. Lili loved painting landscapes, while Gerda was a successful illustrator for fashion magazines and books. Lili's sexual identity journey started in part by accident. See, Gerda liked painting people and she needed a model because her normal model, actress Anna Larson, didn't show up. At first, naturally as a man, Lili, or Einar, at this time, didn't want to put on a dress. But after his wife's insistence, and I'm assuming being a good sport, relented and dressed in the clothes Anna was supposed to. According to her diary, Lili described this moment as, quote, "I cannot deny, strange as it may sound, that I enjoyed myself in this disguise. I liked the feel of soft women's clothing. I felt very much at home in them from the first moment." End quote. After this, something dormant inside her awakened, and from this point on, Ina, Lili, continued to model for his wife, her wife. Now, we're gonna back up a bit. Some say Lili already had Klinefelter syndrome, or KS. Also known as 47XXY, is a chromosome anomaly where a male has an extra X chromosome. Warning, get ready for a lot of X's and Y's. Now we know that males have 1 chromosome and females have 2 X chromosomes. Most men have an XY chromosome, the Y referring to the genetic tool the sperm needs to make an egg male. When it comes to Lili and Klinefelter syndrome, an XXY chromosome basically means there's more female chromosomes in a male body. This can come in the form of breast growth, weak muscles, less body hair, low sex drive, and more. So this could explain how and kind of why Lili, or Einar, thought he was a woman. It is also thought that Lili was intersex, basically people who don't fit the typical biological traits of male or female bodies. This does include unnatural chromosome patterns. It's a very unique scientific way to explain why Lili could have thought she was a woman. But also, let's just realize that some of them just kind of feel it. Before we move on, the intersex argument has been disputed. However, the Klinefelter syndrome has not entirely. The way Gerda painted Lili, Ina, transformed him into a beautiful woman. I mean, Shoot, look at these paintings. Between seeing this woman and continuing modeling for his wife, Einar knew he wanted to be that woman and began to envision living life as a woman. It is while modeling for his wife, Einar began using the name Lili. The couple traveled throughout Italy and France before settling in Paris in 1912, and it is here that Einar really started to explore who Lili is. See, in Paris, Einar began living as a woman openly. The couple would attend balls and social events where Einar could be dressed as a woman and would pretend to be Gerda's sister, Lili. Speaking of Gerda, despite this very unusual marriage, she supported her husband for the next 15 years. This is undisputable proof that her extraordinary love for this not man or woman person was strong. And just time out, this is where the transgender hatred makes me so it doesn't matter the gender. You love the person. Gender is just our book cover. We're all books. And guess what? Book covers can change. That doesn't mean the story person has changed. We're all books in a library and we can all choose to change our freaking cover. Rant over, back to the video. From 1912 on, Einar began to go more by Lili and chose the surname Elbe after a major river in Central Europe that mainly goes from the Czech Republic through Germany. Now, though Lili felt liberated and comfortable living as a woman, according to her diary, she was depressed because all her attempts at a medical solution to fully transition failed. Quote, I said to myself that as my case has never been known in the history of medical art, it simply did not exist. It simply could not exist. End quote. Since she couldn't live her true self in the biological sense, unfortunately, like all people wanting to transition, she considered suicide. But luckily, in the 1920s, she learned of a possibility of a permanent transformation for her body. She found a doctor that was willing to do what we call today gender-affirming surgery. This is where we meet Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, a Jewish-German physician and sexologist, which is the study of human sexuality, and was a very strong, very loud advocate for sexual minorities. He founded the Scientific Humanitarian Committee in Berlin in May of 1897 in order to campaign for social recognition of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, while at the same time campaigning against their legal persecution. This was the first LGBT rights organization in history. Isn't that cool? I didn't know that. He also founded the World League for Sexual Reform in July of 1928. This was a league that did policy reforms for more openness around sex. Being a physician and believing in transgender and gay rights, Dr. Magnus founded an early private sexology research clinic in 1919 called the Institution for Sexual Science, or
Institut für Sexualwissenschaft.
The German name. It was a pioneering research and treatment clinic for basically anything and everything in the world of sexuality and gender. Magnus even coined the term transsexualism in 1923. This was an amazing clinic and did so much good, but it shut down in May of 1933 because Nazis showed up at the front door. Because we know who they hate and we know what happens after that. Anyway, we're moving on. In 1930, Lili went to Germany for sexual reassignment surgery. This is awesome for her, but remember, at this time, this kind of surgery was experimental. Mind you, castration, at least, had been around for forever. But the act of adding and subtracting body parts, essentially. I'm trying to say this as correctly as I can. This is new for me to try. Please be kind to the comments. Was still kind of being figured out. It was known that it could happen, but it's not as well known or as well done as it is today. Lili stayed at the institute, and prior to the surgeries, her psychological health was evaluated by Dr. Magnus himself through a series of tests that are unknown. Over the next 2 years, Ina underwent 4 operations. The first one was done by Aaron Gorbant and removed his testicles. The next 3 were done by Dr. Kurt Warrenkos, who was a pioneer in sex reassignment surgery at the Dresden Municipal Women's Clinic. We don't know much about the other surgeries or what specifically happened because all of Lili's medical documents were ruined in a bombing raid by the Allies that destroyed the clinic and the archives during World War II. What we do know is that the second surgery was to implant an ovary, and the third one was to remove the penis and scrotum. These surgeries were, of course, a dream come true and allowed Lili to fully become the woman she wanted to be. She likened it to being born again. Now, though Lili is living her best life, however, her story got out to the public and she became a sensation in Danish and German newspapers. And astoundingly, from the few that I could find, it was a mix of fascination and a lot of love. With this publicity, however, either the King of Denmark or a Danish court annulled the marriage in October of 1930 between she and Gerda. This was due because it was around this time the surgeries had allowed Ina to legally change his gender and name. Thus, a passport came to Ina that officially had her true name and gender, saying Lili Elbe, female. Though it was forced, Lili and Gerda separated amicably, and Lili started to get support from her brother and sister. Interestingly, the name she's most commonly known by, Lili Elbe, was first seen in a Danish newspaper article by journalist Louise Lulu Lassen for Politiken. I hope I said that correctly. The leading Danish daily newspaper in February of 1931. Lili returned to Dresden, having been divorced, felt lonely and incomplete. Remember that she painted landscapes? Well, by now she had stopped painting, explaining that she associated her painting with masculinity and it just wasn't who she was anymore, and she wanted to focus on other things. In her diary, she says, quote, "It is not with my brain, not with my eyes, not with my hands that I want to be creative, but with my heart and with my blood. The fervent longing in my woman's life is to become the mother of a child." End quote. Though she and Gerda had divorced, an old friend, French art dealer Claude Lejeune, asked for her hand in marriage. Elated as hell, Lili wanted to marry him and dreamed to one day have kids with him. Her fourth and final surgery was planned for September of 1931. This was to hopefully transplant a uterus and construct an artificial vagina. This surgery made Lili one of the earliest transgender women to undergo a vaginoplasty. This surgery was to hopefully allow her to have intercourse with her new fiancé and maybe become a mother. Unfortunately, and truly heartbreakingly, Lili's body rejected the transplanted uterus. This is because the drug cyclosporin, which is used to prevent the body from rejecting transplanted organs, would not be successfully used for another 50 years. This rejection led to her body's immune system to decrease and ultimately caused an infection. Lili Elbe, better known as Lili Elbe, died on September 13th, 1931 from cardiac arrest in Dresden, Italy at the age of 48. Her death was just 3 months after the surgery. She is buried in Trinity Cemetery in Dresden. In the year 2000, David Abershoff wrote a fictionalized book about Lili's life called The Danish Girl, and it became an international bestseller, being translated into many languages. This book was one of the earliest fictional accounts of gender-affirming surgery, which in turn shaped LGBTQ literature. Now, the title might sound a bit familiar. That is because in 2015, Tom Hooper directed the global box office success The Danish Girl, where Lili is played by astounding actor Eddie Redmayne. Now, I've seen this movie. I liked the movie. When I realized she was this, I was like, oh my God, I have to talk about her. But I can't move on without talking about the movie's controversies. The movie has been criticized as forced feminization erotica, which took away from the real story. I have my own thoughts about that. And that since the movie took directly from the fictional book instead of actual historical facts, because the book again, is fictionalized, doesn't tell the true story of Lili and Gerda. Additionally, it's been criticized for casting Eddie, a straight man, in the role of a transgender woman. I think there are plenty of transgender women who could have played that role, but that's Hollywood. Hollywood still has a little bit of a ways to go. There's so much more controversies, and if you want to learn more, go ahead. My only biggest gripe is that it's not 100% historically accurate, but at the same time, what freaking historical movie is? The Mixed Copenhagen and LGBTQ plus film festival gives out 4 awards called the Lili Awards each year in honor of her. On December 28th, 2022, Google did a doodle of her, celebrating her 140th birthday. Before her death in 1931, Lili, along with her friend Ernest Harthorne, published a memoir of her life. It is titled From Man to Woman and was published after Lili's death and is a full depiction of her life as a painter and talks about her surgeries. Her memoir is one of the first widely available books about a transgender person's life, and it was an inspiration for so many. Though Lili lived as a woman for over 20 years, she never got to fully experience the full transformation into womanhood. But the times she was able to live as a woman were truly the best of her life. Lili wrote in her diary, quote, "That I, Lili, am vital and have a right to life I have proved by living for 14 months. It may be said that 14 months is not much, but they seem to me like a whole and happy human life." There you go. The first story of Pride Month on the Herstory channel. I really hope I did okay. I tried to be as accurate and correct as I can. I have never talked in depth this much about a transgender life. And you know my stories. I go from birth to death. And it's hard because you don't want to use their dead name and you don't want to insult them and their death. But I want to tell the story as much as I can. And I'm like, but she's still him. And I hope I did okay. Please give me any tips if I said anything wrong. Please do. I take any productive criticism. If you learned something today, and I sure hope you did, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And while you're down there, please leave a friendly comment. I will see you in my next video. But until then, don't be well behaved. You just might make herstory. See you next time, guys.
Coming at you live.